morning and welcome everyone. We're delighted to have you with us this morning. What a summer we've been having. You know, it's winding down and hard to believe we're only 47 days away from the first day of fall. And with fall, we think about school and knowing that in 13 days, the Beaufort County School District will be back in session. And speaking of children, I know a few that are back in school today. So school's winding up or winding ready to go, and encourage you to be careful and watch for school buses and children as they're out and about. You know, I can't let the moment pass this morning without a special hats off and recognizing the Heritage Classic Foundation. The RBC Heritage is 250 days away, and 1 or 2 days ago, it was announced that the RBC Heritage will be one of only eight signature events on the PGA Tour next year. So what does that mean? Well, to me, it means we'll have the best golfers on the planet here. And that'll be the week after that other tournament that's just down the road a little bit, the Masters. And so April 15th through the 21st, mark your calendars now. And once again, it'll be another great event. And a special shout out to Steve Wilmot, the Heritage Classic Foundation, all the volunteers and trustees that make this tournament one of the best of the best of the best on the PGA Tour. This morning, we've got a great lineup for you again, and I think it's time to get right to it. We all know that the cost of insurance remains top of mind with residents and businesses, and your chamber's looking at that issue and digging into it from several different angles. And for this month's Power Hour, we took it to the top. We're pleased to kick off Power Hour this morning with Michael Wise, the Director of South Carolina Department of Insurance. Michael is going to talk to us about what's happening in the market right now with affordability, and maybe as just importantly, the availability of insurance. He was appointed by Governor McMaster in the spring, and we're anxious to get his take on how South Carolina compares to other states and what's on the horizon for insurance rates. Michael, welcome. We're delighted to have you. And those of you who haven't sent in questions yet, I'll remind you to do that. And we've had several questions that have already come in. So Michael, we're looking forward to hearing from you.
Well, thank you for the invitation to come speak. I'm happy to do that. I'm glad to be with you all this morning. You'll have to excuse the lighting in the background. I'm on the road right now, but I'm happy to be here virtually. So just briefly, I'll go over the coastal property market as we see it and provide just some updates there, an overview, and then take those questions. Right now, the coastal market is experiencing some issues, certainly. You've probably seen that. We have seen the cost rising for insurance coverage. We've also seen some strain on availability in certain markets, particularly condo buildings right now. That's what we've heard a lot of, and we've seen a lot of, is that they're having trouble finding coverage, and it's often increasing in cost astronomically. I'll go through a little bit of that, and let me start by saying some of the reasons why insurance costs are going up. We all see on the news these natural catastrophes that happen around the world. We see typhoons in South Korea, we see earthquakes in Turkey, we see wildfires in California, as well as the hurricanes that impact the Southeast. And that's all connected these days. The insurance companies buy something called reinsurance, and reinsurance is essentially insurance for insurance companies. And those reinsurers operate globally, and so they have experienced losses from events throughout the world. And as a result, they've lost money, and they've raised their prices to cover those losses. And so the insurance companies that buy that reinsurance are paying more for it. And unfortunately, that means premiums are going up to cover those increased costs for the insurance companies themselves. In addition to that, we've certainly seen claims in other states, in particular, especially Florida last year with Ian, and that's ongoing. And so everything that impacts those companies that operate in South Carolina certainly is something we're aware of and we keep tabs on. And beyond that, we've seen a lack of reinsurance, what we call capacity. So investors in reinsurance companies are less willing to put up their capital when it feels like a riskier investment, so where the reinsurers lost money. So that means there's less reinsurance available. When there's less competition, as we all know, prices do tend to increase. So that's another pressure there. We've also seen rating agencies downgrade some companies. Typically for a mortgage, you need for a federally backed mortgage, you need an A-rated carrier for your insurance. And so we've seen some ratings downgrades. So that's put a little bit of pressure there on availability in the market. And then we've also seen property values go up. So if your property value went from $500,000 to $600,000, then that's a 20% increase in coverage that you need. And it may not equate to exactly a 20% increase in your premiums that you're charged. It does have an upward effect on that, an upward pressure. And so that's impacted things. And then inflation in general, the labor and the materials cost to replace or repair anything these days, but particularly property, has gone up significantly over the last couple of years. And we don't have a crystal ball. We hope maybe that's starting to ebb a little bit, some of those pressures, but that is what's impacting coastal rates. Now, one thing to just keep in mind as the questions we get would be, well, there hasn't been a storm, maybe in South Carolina, that's had a widespread impact. We haven't had a Hugo in a long time, but we have had some other storms like Matthew and others in the 2000s. And so we see those things happen, and we do get those questions about profitability for insurance companies. Well, they made a lot of money in a year when we didn't have a storm. So the business model for property insurance companies is they tend to make more money in the years whenever there is no hurricane hitting their covered area. And then whenever there is a storm that impacts significantly, they lose a lot of money. Some of that is shouldered by the reinsurance companies, but then those direct writers do shoulder a lot of the burden themselves directly. And so what we do as a regulator is we make sure that those companies in the good years are putting away money into reserves to pay claims, and also something called surplus. That's an additional mechanism to have funds available to pay claims. And so essentially it's a savings account for the insurance companies. And so they put away a lot of money in the non-storm years so that they have it for the storm years. And that's something that we're trying to get the message out on, that is something that maybe somebody who's not in the insurance industry doesn't know about. They just haven't been exposed to that. And so we do look at those insurance companies and make sure that they have money to pay claims. That's the reason that insurance departments were first created, is to address solvency issues of the insurance carriers for all lines of business. And beyond that, we also do some other things. Of course, we take care of our consumers. If there are questions, whether it's personal lines or commercial lines of insurance, feel free to call us and reach out with questions. We like to educate as much as we can. And we also take complaints, so we can address those with the companies. And then one of the things that's come up with the condos specifically is the type of insurance carrier that offers coverage. So there's three buckets, if you will. And this is, I'll try to take out some of the technical details here. But so we have what we call admitted carriers that we regulate directly as the Department of Insurance. And those are the ones that, I won't say any names, but they advertise during Super Bowls and on TV and throughout on billboards. So those are the ones, those name brand companies, so to speak. And we regulate them. We regulate them from a solvency perspective, from a rate perspective, and then some other ways as well. And so that's one bucket. Another bucket on the other extreme is the South Carolina Wind and Hail Underwriting Association. That is the residual market, the market of last resort in the state for wind coverage along the coast. So if your standard homeowners carrier won't write you, or commercial property carrier won't write your wind coverage, you can go to the wind pool and get that portion of your coverage taken care of by them. And so then between those two, that something that serves as it's a niche market that provides some flexibility, is the surplus lines market. Those are non-admitted carriers, so we don't regulate them. They have more flexibility. The idea is that they can fill a gap between the admitted market and the residual market. And so these condo associations that are having a lot of difficulty are primarily dealing with the surplus lines market. And we can communicate with them, but we don't have any say in the rates they charge or in their solvency. There is regulation for them by the state in which they're based, what we would call their domicile state. And so that's who regulates them. They typically do it just from a financial standpoint to make sure the company's solvent. But that's something that we've gotten some questions about recently. And so I feel like it's helpful just to go ahead and address that up front. And then from there, I'm happy to take questions. There's a lot we can cover. I have notes in front of me, but I think there are some questions, so I want to leave time for that.
Very much. We appreciate that. And our first question today is coming from Tim. And Tim is, first of all, saying fewer policies available and companies eliminating policies for areas impacted by natural disasters. Our policy increased by 54% in 2024. And with that, what's the best guess for increases over the next 5 years?
So I can't predict everything that's going to happen, but I will say that we've heard some things that are promising about the reinsurance market in particular, that it may be cooling off some. Time will tell. Ultimately, we've heard that from several different insurance companies. We've seen it in some of the trade press, and we're hopeful that that will happen and it will cool off, that maybe we can have a break from natural disasters worldwide, having such an impact as they have. We've seen other states are in worse circumstances than we are. California and Florida and Louisiana stand out. Florida and Louisiana have been impacted by hurricanes and a fair number of major insolvencies in their states. And California in particular has been in the news, where some of their largest writers, I think 3 of their top 10 writers in the state, have said they won't offer homeowners coverage anymore. And they can't get the rate they need from the California Department of Insurance, and or that's what they've said. And so they've said, we can't operate profitably. We're losing money, so we're not going to do as much business in the state. And they pulled back from issuing new policies. Typically in a state, and we have this law too, where rates cannot be inadequate, excessive, or unfairly discriminatory. And so they can't be inadequate because you need to make sure the company can stay solvent, have money to pay claims. They shouldn't be excessive and overpriced. And then unfairly discriminatory deals with things like you can't rate on someone's race or religion and protected classes like that. But we have heard stories about the rates going up by that much. Again, it's a combination of things, from the reinsurance cost to your property values going up and needing more coverage, and then just general inflation. In the surplus lines market, competition is limited, and that also has a negative impact on pricing, which meaning that it goes up.
Michael, thank you for that. Our next question is coming from Max. And Max is asking, how are we planning to attract more insurance carriers to the area to help combat the rapidly increasing prices of flood insurance costs?
Sure. So with property insurance in general, we recruit as many carriers as we can. Some of these markets, there aren't many writers, and they either choose to write it or they don't. But we do have conversations with prospective carriers, with carriers that are already in the state, about expanding their offerings. So the things that we do to recruit, the biggest thing that we have going for us is just being open and being a good regulatory environment. We're willing to have conversations with companies, to pick up the phone, to send an email, to have in-person meetings. And that is some of the feedback that we get from a lot of carriers, is you're willing to talk to us, and we appreciate that. And we don't always agree with maybe what an insurance company wants to do or how they view things, but we have dialogue and conversation. Communication is key, and that openness is very important to them. And so what we'll do is we'll look at carriers that are offering coverage in other states, specifically around the Southeast and hurricane-prone states. And if they're not operating in South Carolina, then we try to find out why. And we cold call, and we have those meetings and conversations to see if they'd be interested in operating in our state. And that we want competition. That is one of the most important things to a healthy insurance market. And flood insurance, we're working to grow the private market. The National Flood Insurance Program, the federal program, does provide most of the flood insurance countrywide. And we have a significant number of policies with them in the state. I think last I saw was about 210,000 policies. That's a little bit dated, that number, but we're working to grow the private market. It has grown over the last few years. We've started collecting that data, and I don't have the numbers offhand, but it's seen significant growth since 2017, and we'll work to continue to add options to the market for policyholders.
All right, Michael, thank you. Our next question is coming from Ethan, and Ethan is asking if there's any danger of major carriers like Allstate or State Farm who left California not writing policies in South Carolina.
Sure. That is definitely something that we don't want to see. Our understanding is that's not the case, that they are here to write. They do have limitations on how much they're willing to write along the coast and wind exposed areas. That's where the wind pool comes in. So that name brand carrier would write the basic policy for fire and theft and liability and things like that, everything but the wind and hail coverage. And then the South Carolina Wind and Hail Underwriting Association would provide a policy for coverage for the wind and hail portion. So I don't believe there's always a risk, certainly, but our understanding is they're here and they are glad to be here and operating within the state.
All right, thank you. Let's move on to our next question. That's coming from Terry. And Terry is asking if the Department of Insurance limits the amount of surplus a company can accumulate during the good year to pay for the bad years.
Every company situation is different. And so what we do, it's kind of a two-pronged approach. So we would look at their surplus, and we'd also look at their rates if they're an admitted carrier, specifically for personal lines of business, with the rates. And what they do is they submit a filing with us, and it contains what the math says they need to do with their rates, whether it's an increase or a decrease, and then they have a proposal. It may or may not be exactly equal to what their indicated rate would be. And so I'm an actuary by trade, so I've looked at a lot of property and casualty rate filings over the years, and they provide data on their last 3 to 5 years and then projections typically. And sometimes we think it's valid and we approve the filing as they submit it. There are other times whenever we don't agree on things and we don't believe that what they've provided warrants what they proposed. And so we have conversations with them, and ultimately they amend the filing based on where we come down on it. But so there is that oversight as well to make sure that those rates aren't excessive.
All right, sir, thank you. Moving on to the next question from William. And William is asking, is there anything being done to prevent fraudulent wind and hail roofing claims from roofers?
So that's that is outside of our jurisdiction. It is something that's come up over time, certainly, and something that we hear about. We do have an insurance fraud unit. It would have to, so whatever they're doing would have to fall under insurance fraud specifically for us to prosecute. And certainly there's got to be evidence and everything like that. But so we do have that unit that's working hard on behalf of the citizens of the state. But as far as the roofers themselves, we don't have direct oversight whenever it comes to them. But we are aware of the issue, and we're participating in conversations.
Okay, thank you. Next question is coming from Olivia. And Olivia is asking, do consumers have any resources for dramatic increases in insurance rates?
So the biggest thing that we advise consumers to do is to shop around. With the condo associations, we know that that's difficult, particularly for them right now, with the lack of carriers willing to write them. But so for homeowners market or auto or anything like that, where there's coverage widely available, we would encourage a consumer to find an agent that they trust, who can shop around for them, find a coverage that fits their needs. You'd be surprised how much money you can save. And then some of the options that you can get that maybe one carrier offers and another one doesn't. Everyone has different financial needs, and so there's not a standard. The products are similar, but they're not exactly the same. So it's worth shopping around, and that's what we encourage consumers to do. And if you're having difficulty and you need to find an agent, but you don't know who to talk to, we have a list of agents. We can't recommend policies or recommend companies, certainly, but we do have a list of agents by county And so if you contact us, we're happy to provide you with those names and contact information.
All right, sir. Thank you. Next question is coming from John. And John is asking, are there any meaningful discounts for building using more resilient materials in the region, in the coastal region, and with those materials being concrete block or concrete walls, prefab, etc.?
Sure, good question. So it depends on your insurance carrier. Every carrier is required to offer what we call mitigation discounts. So if you mitigate the risk of damage from wind, and so those things may be impact resistant windows, hurricane shutters, roof tie downs, all kinds of things. But I would advise checking with your agent or broker, and maybe even your insurance company directly, to see what they offer discounts for, to make sure you don't go spend money and doing something to fortify your structure, and then maybe that's not something that's recognized by the insurance carriers risk mitigation, and you don't receive a discount. So I would strongly encourage a policyholder to check with their agent or broker, and again, maybe even their insurance carrier directly, to see what would get them the most bang for their buck, essentially. And we also have a South Carolina Safe Home program in the state, and it is a grant program for homeowners, and it offers matching and not, there's two types of matching and non-matching funding to help with making some of those improvements, those structural improvements to your home for residential property.
All right, Michael, two more questions. And the next one is coming from Kate. And as Kate is asking if you can get a list of agents you mentioned online on your website.
Right. So it's on the website, I believe. If it's not on the website, then you can call us, and we're happy to provide you with that list.
All right. Next question is coming from Andy, and Andy is asking, will insurance company give homeowners consideration for major improvements such as roof, mechanicals, etc.?
Yes. So again, it varies by the company how much of a discount they give for each item, and also the items that qualify. But we certainly encourage you to reach out to your agent to find out more about what the different companies that you have as options offer.
Michael, you've been extremely informative this morning. We thank you for your time. We thank you for what you're doing. And we all know that we've got a big challenge ahead of us, and we look forward to seeing brighter things in the future regarding insurance rates.
As do we. And thank you for the time this morning. I appreciate the invitation to come and chat for a little bit.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, we're going to transition now. And if you haven't driven down the road in Buckwalter lately, you missed a lot that's going on out there. New restaurants, shops, and much, much more. Washington Square, the 35-acre development that's well underway. It's a mix of residential, commercial, along with green space. And here to tell us more about it is our good friend David Johnson, the principal with Speyside Partners, the group that's developing the project. David, always good to see you. Welcome, and we thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, and thank you to the Chamber for having me, and all of you who are tuning in. And Kelly, I appreciate you taking care of the presentation here. So, if you could flip forward one, Kelly, that'd be great. We start off with an idea of that if we could create a village that basically had some green space and gathering spaces, we could have some interesting retail and entertainment, and that we could create an interesting project that people would want to come to. We could go forward, please, Kelly. And that's where that was the whole point behind creating Washington Square. And as you can see, this is the master development plan. I think some of you have seen it in the past. It's moved along from where some of you originally saw it quite a bit. The whole idea was to center this development around a big green space. If you can go forward one, and we'll come back, Kelly. I'll just show. I have some photos. This is the landscape square in the middle. We can go back now, please, to the master plan. And so I just want to walk through where we are, what's going on now, and I have some photos after this it'll kind of bring it. Those of you who hadn't been out there, There will be a connection. If you start from the left, there's a connection to the Buckwalter Place, which is where the Kroger is, and other things, the St. Joe's Medical Center. There'll be a connection there. That road will connect where you see that arrow. On the orange piece there as we come back from that road, that it will be a Starbucks is being planned and should start in the next month or so. Across the street, we have, or right next to that is, many of you have been to Low Country Fresh, which is a wonderful market and wonderful entrepreneurs that have started that. I think the chamber has been very involved with that, which has been great. Across the street are 58 townhomes that are well underway. Logan Development is doing that. It is they're going to be 58. I think they've sold around 20 already, and they haven't finished. They're about halfway done with construction there. Then coming to the right toward the square, the first building that's underway, many of you who may have seen, is the framing. Amazing how quickly framing happens after it sits there, with a lot of the site work. And that'll be a 3-story building, which I'll talk about a little bit more. That L-shaped building on the square is what's the first building that's going up. The next building will be flipped. That building will be flipped onto the other side of the square, that same L shape to the other side of the square, which is a combination of retail and rental apartments. Before I go too far, we're planning the entrance street, which is Ludlow there on which is next to, between Low Country Fresh and the building now going up, is a planned retail, mixed-use retail and office, with the possibility of some shared office in that building. And then there are various other mixed-use projects that will be the other buildings that you see there. And the potential, that square building in the back, people always ask about. The potential there is a boutique hotel with roughly 80 to 100 rooms. So that's the master plan. What we're currently working on is what we call Washington Square East, which is everything between Buckwalter Parkway and the square. So that building I mentioned, which is going up now that you see. I'm happy to also tell you that we've reached an arrangement. We've got a contract with Tesla for them to put 16 charging stations in that first phase of the project. And as you probably all probably know, I mean, Tesla is becoming the standard for all the electric vehicles now. So it's not just for Teslas. It'll be a charging stations for all electric vehicles. So I'm happy to have that there. If we can go forward, please, Kelly. You've seen the square. We'll go one more forward. And many of you have already seen Low Country Fresh. It's such a great concept, great people, and it's really a great store. I encourage you, if you hadn't been, to go there. They were pioneers into Washington Square, which I'm very appreciative of. The next slide just shows you the schematic, the layout for the townhomes. And the point I'm making on this slide is just to say the whole idea was to create a streetscape. So all the parking for the townhomes, the garages are in the back. So you won't see any. There is on-street parking in general in Washington Square, but for the townhomes, the parking is in the back to create that streetscape throughout the whole project. We can go forward, please. This just is the next couple of just some pictures of what's been, what's underway now. And then the next slide will just show you a little bit more detail on the current state of the Logan Homes project. If we can go forward, please. This is just showing you the connection that's going to be made to Buckwalter Place. We can go forward to one more. This is the current, if you hadn't been out there, this is a couple days ago. It's just showing you the first building on the square with the retail below and apartments above. I think I have one more picture of that, and probably enough construction, but that just shows you from the square. And then these are the final elevations. That's looking from the square. And again, you can see retail on the bottom and the apartments above. And then the next slide is just showing you from the street, the main street, Bleecker Street. So when you look at if you look at the next slide, you see what's sort of the floor plan of the retail. And currently, we are very fortunate to have some great partners already, entrepreneurs in the first building. Palmetto Running is taking the premier spot up there, as is Bertie James, both of whom I'm sure many of you know. They're in they have stores in Shelter Cove. Retail One at the end cap is I have a letter of intent with a casual eating, another great entrepreneur, casual eating restaurant. So in the middle, what do we have left? We have roughly 3,000 square feet of retail, and that's between the Retail One and between that and Bertie James. And then and that can be split up in a number of ways, but that's what's left there. And then the bottom retail, what we call Retail 6, is that's any of you who are, if you have great ideas, I'm trying to bring in a more of a fine dining restaurant there. It will have a patio that will be on the square, which will be out for outside eating. And it's got everything, it's set up for a restaurant. So that's my focus right now is to find a great restaurant and then begin that next building, which the footprint will look exactly like this, but just flipped over on the other side of the square. And that's, we're excited. We're very fortunate to have great partners and the Rolfs at Low Country Fresh and Logan Homes, Palmetto Running, as I said, Bertie James, Coastal States Bank, Frazier. We've had a great group of people working for us and working with us, and we're looking forward to continuing the project and continuing to bring in great retail and restaurants and a lot of fun. I mean, one of the things that I didn't mention is on the square, we've got it set up that with pavers in every corner that we can bring in food trucks, we can have entertainment, and that's our plan is to have a number of events on the square as a kind of a destination. So that's where we are, and I'm happy to take any questions.
David, thank you, and congratulations on your 16 charging stations. That's phenomenal. Also, we appreciate you sharing with us some of who your new tenants are going to be. Exciting presentation. We do have some questions. Our first question is coming from Jackson, and Jackson's asking how Washington Square got its name.
Well, I moved down here from New York City about 7 or 8 years ago, and the place I always, when I shopped for Christmas or whatever, I went down to Greenwich Village, and that's where my favorite kind of walking village was around Washington Square, and that always had the most interesting little shops that you'd never see anywhere else. I mean, a kaleidoscope store. That's all he sold, and different things like that. So to me, that was the inspiration. Is how can we create something that's not New York, but that has that kind of feel and excitement and sense of discovery, if you will. So that's how it got its name. Thank you for the question. It's a good one.
All right, sir. Our next question is coming from Kathy, and Kathy's asking, what have you done with the project to ensure good traffic flow and infrastructure?
Well, I mean, we've designed it so, again, that whole connection with Buckwalter Place is going to be important. We've tried to have two areas of entrance into the project. I think the plan is eventually for there to be a light at the Mott Street, the exit Mott Street entrance, which is at the one at the north of the project. Between that and Woodbridge is the plan that the county has. So I think that it's important to have that flow, and I think that we've tried to ensure that through our planning.
Thank you for that, David. The next question is coming from Susan. And Susan's asking, how do you envision the green space being a gathering area?
Well, we hope to program it. Well, first of all, let me just say that, like for instance, Palmetto Running has some ideas to, start some races there to, and we're actually trying to put a pathway around, like there is around Buckwalter Place, a running pathway around the whole project, and we've submitted something to the Corps of Engineers to begin that process. But I hope to have entertainment in there. We can easily have food trucks, food truck day. We could have a farmer's market. I mean, it's going to take some creative thinking, but I think we've got with that space we can do a lot of things with it, and with power there and internet that are already available there, it's going to be easy to do, I think.
Thank you. Two more questions coming from our listeners this morning for you, David. The next one is coming from Ethan, and Ethan is asking, when will the project be complete?
I think we've got another 2 to 3 years to finish the whole project. But that's a great question. I wish I knew the answer to it, but we're steadily moving along and it's picking up some steam. So I think it's probably 3 years away, Ethan.
You probably think not soon enough.
Well, it's been many people have looked at it and said what's happening for many years, and it's been slow, but that's the way it works. It seems to be gathering. Once you get some vertical going there, things start to gather steam, and that's the good news.
It's certainly exciting to see what's going on. Our last question is coming from Mark, and Mark is just wondering if you have any other projects going on in the area.
I'm asked that question a lot, Bill and Mark, and my answer is always, I've looked at a number of things, but I feel like it's important to get this right and show what can be done, what we're trying to do. And I think from there, that there'll be plenty of opportunity. I mean, I see plenty of opportunities, but at this point, the answer is no. I'm focused on this project right now to make sure we do it correctly.
We've had just a couple of others send in and saying it looks like an exciting project, and they're very happy to see it happening. So I'll share that with you as well.
Thanks a lot.
David,
appreciate it.
David, thank you. David Johnson, principal of Speyside Partners, and certainly an exciting project. David, we'll look forward to hearing from you. Another update on down the road.
Great. It's great to be with all of you. Thank you.
All right. Well, it's time now for a big happy birthday to all of us. How about that? The town of Hilton Head Island is celebrating 360 years since the island was first sighted by Captain William Hilton, and it's also the 40th year of the town's incorporation. It's all going to be kicking off at the end of this month with some great celebrations planned. And here to tell us what's in store is the town's Director of Cultural Affairs, Natalie Harvey. Natalie, welcome, and it's good to see you this morning as well. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. Please excuse my background. I'm sitting in our beautiful Weston Resort here. We have our strategic planning with the town council and staff here this morning. So I'm taking a little break to share some exciting news with you guys this morning. The 360-40 celebration is going to be almost 3 weeks of action here on Hilton Head Island. We have set up a website, Hilton Head Island 36040.org, which you can find from the town website, which will share a little bit about the vision of the town, its past 40 years, and honoring the fact that this community has such a rich history, that many, many things happened here before our 40 years. So we're looking back into the history of Hilton Head Island. We're really excited to have a couple of bookend community activities to celebrate. The first being our community picnic on August 26th. That will be at Low Country Celebration Park from 4 to 8. And we're going to have beautiful Chamber of Commerce weather and get out to enjoy celebrating the town's anniversary with some live music, as well as lots of fun activities for the kids, and over 25 community organizations out to share their services with our community. And this is also going to honor some of our longtime islanders. We're looking forward to having recognition of those who've lived here for 20, 30, 40, 60, 80 years, as well as a proclamation from the governor, and Senator Davis has agreed to attend as well. We have the Voices of El Shaddai, Eric Casanova, Louise Spencer and Levon Stevens, Matt Robbins, Sarah Burns, and these guys and Quentin Smalls on the books for the entertainment. So it should be great. And if then you go to our website, you'll see about a dozen other events that have already been on this calendar, including an interfaith service, a behind the scenes tour at Coastal Discovery Museum. And of course, the Chamber of Commerce is going to be sponsoring Chalk the Walk this year as part of it. The Breeze Trolley, the Painted Rock Ride will kick us off that first weekend. And there will be a special program about Walter Greer and his early efforts here to bring arts to our community that were in the form of the Red Piano Gallery and the Round Table. And then at the very end, the last weekend, the 14th through the 17th of September, we're really excited to be the presenting sponsor of the inaugural Hilton Head Island Jam Singer-Songwriter Festival. This is bringing us days of music, and over 36 performers are going to be involved. There are a dozen different locations all around Hilton Head, but the finale for that will be a Saturday, September 16th, concert at the Low Country Celebration Park. The headliner is going to be Low Cash, and it should be a really fun day to come out and enjoy some original live music. Our presenters of this are partners in it, our BMI Music, and let's just say that the interest from the Nashville scene has been strong for those artists to come here to Hilton Head Island. So they have their own website. You can go see the entire list of performers who will be here. We have Grammy award-winning songwriters. We have, number of top one hits. They can visit HiltonHeadIslandJam.com. If you have any questions about those events, I'll also, if you wouldn't mind sharing later, you can always email our committee here with the Hilton Head 360 celebration. It's 360-40 celebration at HiltonHeadIslandSC.gov. So that's a little bit of a taste of what's happening over these few weeks between August 26th and September 16th. And I'm really excited to share that with the Chamber and appreciate the opportunity to share that with all of your business partners.
Natalie, thank you, and thank you for breaking out of your meeting to be with us this morning. A couple questions that we have coming in. The first one's coming from Olivia, and Olivia is asking about the Singer-Songwriter Festival and inquiring how that came about.
The town was approached by an organizer of this event, and they have done similar programs like this down in Key West for a number of years. And we're really thinking that Hilton Head Island was the perfect location to host such an event. The really great thing is when I first heard music festival, I thought a 3-day long out in a field event with several stages. And this is actually a very different format. There are a dozen different locations, and excuse me while I look at my cheat sheet, but they range in size from, we have Big Bamboo, the Jazz Corner, outdoor performances at the Tiki Hut. Our friends here at the Westin Resort got very excited, and they're going to be hosting songwriters at their pool as well as during the evening. Lincoln and South will be hosting programs during the day. Several events at the Liberty Oak in Sea Pines, which is exciting. The Westin again, Fish, Caligny Theater, the Boardroom, and of course the bank will be joining us, and then the Celebration Park. So there's a great variety of size of venues. So there's going to be the opportunity for intimate performances with some of these songwriters, where there'll be several on stage at a time, sharing stories, sharing backgrounds of their music. And then there will be some events that will be more of a ticketed concert-like environment, like at the Caligny Theater.
All right, thank you. Next is coming from Susan, and Susan's saying Crescendo is not too far down the road. What's planned for that celebration?
Oh, Crescendo, that's right. I'm working on that too. This is, Hilton Head Island always has something exciting going on in the arts and cultural community. So having the opportunity to have the 360/40 several weeks before we kick off Crescendo, that will be going on. The opening will be the 10th of October at Shelter Cove Community Park, which is always a great opportunity to enjoy getting to know some of our arts organizations, getting a taste of what's to come during Crescendo. This year, we've invited a guest band to be our closing act. They're called the Maharaja Flamenco Trio. They've been described as sort of Nuevo Flamenco, similar a little bit, I think, to some folks will know the Gypsy Kings. It's something sort of new and different for our community. That'll be a free event for everyone. We'll have over 100 different events going on. In fact, we should be announcing some of our signature events in the next week or so. And then the culmination will be the Lantern Parade, which is Saturday, November the 18th. And this year we are looking to extend the route a little bit and end at Celebration Park with an opportunity to have a little bit of more space for that grand finale party with the bands and the big puppets.
Natalie, thank you so much. We're delighted to have you with us. As I stated at the beginning, your plate is full, but it's certainly a lot of fun and great things going on for all of us here on the island, Bluffton, and really the entire region.
Thank you so much for sharing today, and I appreciate the opportunity.
All right. Natalie, thank you. Again, she's the Director of Cultural Affairs for the town of Hilton Head Island. I'll also mention that for all the events, and she talked about many of them, others you can go on our website, which is hiltonheadblufftonchamber.org, and find all the events going on in the area. And that's hiltonheadblufftonchamber.org. I want to thank each of you for being with us this morning. Enjoy the rest of your summer. We'll be back at you next month with another stellar lineup. And please, if you have ideas on people you would like to hear from, speakers, let us know those. And we're also very, very appreciative of all the questions that keep coming in. Have a great rest of your day, and we hope to see you soon. Thanks.